You know what this fight smelled like with Keith Peterson there? Dominic Cruz is right about Keith Peterson's refereeing, as he did an awful job once again, not taking points away for Usman kicking balls like it's soccer. Threw in a strange headbutt at the end of the first round as well. He was trying to face off with Hughes, but moved his forehead into Hughes' face. He grabbed the fence at one point, but also two of the judges were probably giving off the same stench as Keith Peterson, because one of them scored at 50-45 and the other 49-46 for Usman, reminding everybody that the fight was definitely in Dubai, because that is deranged. There is no way you give 5 rounds to Usman or even 4, showing that Hughes never even stood a chance, unless he got a finish. But I'll just say the incompetency of the judges worked against Paul Hughes here. The fight was very close. I could have saw it 3-2 either way. I thought Usman perhaps got the nod, but no argument against Hughes winning either. But Usman absolutely should have had at least 1 point deduction, as there were more fouls in the fight than were talked about. I'll get into those first to dispel any further controversy. So for the first low blow, to be fair here, Usman was throwing an inside leg kick as Hughes was moving slightly forward and lowered his stance in reaction to the kick, so it looks like it may have been an accidental collision. I don't think Usman was intentional on landing the low blow, but it still affects the fight, Now the second one seemed worse, because Paul Hughes mimicked the same exact motion. He slightly moved forward and slightly lowered his stance, but he slightly pulled his hips away from the kick, making it more difficult to land to the area, but it still does. And for that one, Keith Peterson, he was oblivious at the moment, he was in his own world, and refused to stop the action. Then there was the head collision at the end of the first round, which was completely unnecessary. There was no reason Usman should even face off with him. He moved his head into Hughes, forehead into the brow area. It didn't seem to cause any sort of cosmetic damage, no cuts, bruises, or anything, and the referee just gave him a warning, which usually amounts to absolutely nothing from the referee. It wasn't like an impactful head collision, but still. And then we go to the fence grab of the second round. This was as Usman only was able to secure one hook, trying to get the back. Hughes was doing well on keeping his side up against the fence and closing the space to the side of his head. But because Usman only had one hook in, he was somewhat unbalanced on top. Because he's holding his body weight on top of Hughes and he's leaning into one side, Hughes posturing up is going to cause him to move unsteadily on top. So in order to keep his balance, Usman grabs onto the fence right beside Hughes' head. This didn't seem too obstructive from Keith Peterson's point of view, because look where he is. If we can see the fence grab from this angle, he can see the fence grab clearer than we can, but still did nothing about it. Now, to be fair, it wasn't the biggest move in the world. I don't think it would have caused a reposition or anything like that, but the referee is just not being involved whatsoever. And then the fourth low blow. It's like a repeat of the same exact sequence. Usman throws an inside leg kick after measuring with the lead hand, but Hughes squats even lower this time, contributing to the kick landing low. Now, when we differentiate the positions here, would the kick have landed low regardless if Paul Hughes squatted? It's quite hard to distinguish. He does target the kick pretty high up. I don't know, it's quite hard. I think it's a good way to observe the distinction. And then there's a Usman headbutt. A lot of people miss this one. About 30 seconds into the fifth round, after Hughes lands a powerful punch, Usman ducks his head and rams it directly into Hughes' jaw. That was an egregious headbutt, especially because Hughes was moving forward, potentially amplifying the damage. And Usman has the gall to grab the top of his head and tell Hughes he was in the wrong for the headbutt. Bro, you headbutted Hughes. What are you talking about? It's ridiculous at this point that he didn't get a point deduction, at least for that, right? There was the fence grab, there was this. Hughes did not contribute at all to any of those fouls. The low blows, there is some contribution there because he was lowering his stance. But even still, at least deduct a point there if at any point in the fight. There was also a front kick from Usman that seemed to have grazed low, and Hughes signals to him, man, keep the kicks up higher. And Hughes didn't duck into that one, he just stood still in his stance. Hughes poked him in the eye, it seemed like. He extended all of his fingers onto Usman's face that could have poked him in the eye. Now, Usman didn't give a reaction to it. He may just be that poised, or the fingers didn't precisely get into the eye, but still, we do have to point it out. Usman also threw a low spinning back kick that seemed to have been a foul as well, but similar to Usman, Hughes didn't give a reaction to it. So maybe it didn't land there, who knows. It looked like it did from the camera angle though. Just pointing it out though. In this moment, Hughes may have grazed a low blow here with his knee and shin. I'm just throwing it in there if it's a possibility it landed. It doesn't seem to be definite. But then Hughes returns with his own headbutt. He moves forward into Usman's face and causes a cut. Now that was pretty bad. But then Usman grabs the fence once more as Hughes hit a beautiful switch, reversing the grappling positions. And the reason why holding the fence there was incredibly impactful was because he reinforced his balance so he didn't fall forward or have a heavier lean forward, which would have gave Hughes a smoother path to get to the back. But because he grabbed the fence, reinforced his balance, Usman hopped up to his feet and moved away from Hughes. That was pretty bad. Hughes threw a left hook as Usman was ducking and hit the back of his head, so Usman definitely contributed to that. And there were other strikes that landed to the back of the head as fighters were ducking, but those two were definitely like the worst of the fouls because Hughes did not contribute at all to those. With the low blows, there's an argument that, him lowering his stance may have caused the collision to happen. If he didn't lower like that, perhaps there wouldn't have been a low blow. But with these, there's absolutely no argument for that. And still, Keith Peterson was in his own world the whole time, man. Now, who really won this fight? It seems like the controversial rounds are, honestly, I think only the second. I don't think the third or the fifth were controversial. They both should have went to Hughes. Round 2 was a swinging round. 3 had to go to Hughes because he inflicted the most damage. I mean, that leg kick alone was by far the most damaging shot of otherwise a very close round and one of the most damaging of the fight. Now, round 5 was clearly Hughes. Like, there's no argument against that. He dropped Usman in the 5th round with a jab. There didn't seem to be a stumble. Usman took a jab to the face and literally fell to a knee from it. A direct result from the jab. I believe the entire fight rode on the 2nd round. And apparently these are the scorecards. So yes, they were typing in the scorecards instead of handwriting it. I don't know if the judges were capable of editing their scores. I'm not going to say they were, but with the fact that they're typing instead of handwriting brings on even more scrutiny, which is crazy. And apparently they switched around their scorecards or something like that. They provided completely different scorecards originally, but it seems like those were incorrect. And they give us the correct ones, which are better to be fair, but still so flawed. Let's score the 2nd round as to who won the fight. So we're going to categorize every single strike in accordance to damage, light, medium, and heavy. As damage trumps all, and of course effective grappling has to be actually effective. You can't just take them down and hold them there. So the round begins with Hughes' jab seemingly falling short, and then Usman counters with a very light jab of his own. Seems like this body jab fell short as well, as Hughes parried it. Another jab from Usman, but then Hughes returns with his own, delivering with considerably more impact, causing whiplash, blasting Usman's head away, making it the first medium strike of the round. Another light jab from Usman, and then he lines up a right straight later, landing as Hughes is pulling away for the check left hook. Categorizing this one as, I guess, in between a light and a medium. Didn't have the same impact as Hughes' jab, but certainly more than just those grazing jabs he was landing. Then both guys kicking each other's shins definitely does not feel good. Then another solid jab from Hughes, punching Usman's head away. Usman moves forward with the 1-2, and Hughes counters him with a swift left hook, but not a powerful shot. The left straight from Usman also connects, but doesn't really cause much impact. Inside leg kick from Hughes knocks Usman into the opposite stance. That's more than just a light strike. Jab from Usman, then he lands a leg kick later. Doesn't really shake the balance of Hughes whatsoever. Lands a right straight to the body as a setup for the left hook, which misses. Then Usman lands a power jab of his own, blowing away Hughes' head for his first medium strike. Hughes lands a right straight to the body as Usman is fleeing, so it softens the punch. A light, low side kick from Hughes. Usman then lands 3 jabs in succession, and Hughes tries to counter with a combination, but it seems like all of his punches miss or were crowded in by Usman's clinch, so they weren't really able to extend out there. The first body jab completely misses, and then the right uppercut seems to go above the back. He may have tried to throw a left uppercut, but it completely crowded in by Usman's takedown, rising to the clinch, and then Hughes is using that as an underhook. Usman lands a knee to the hip, misses the second one, and then Hughes tries a counter off the disengagement, but Usman is able to intercept him with a jab on that forward motion, and then Hughes grazes with his. They both exchange jabs. Usman lands to the face, Hughes just connects to the body at the end of it, and Hughes grazes with a jab to the head as Usman attempts to slip on the outside of it. Again, all of these shots light. He continues with another jab, intercepting the forward motion once more as Hughes lands a jab to the chest. Another jab from Hughes, but it gets partially blocked by the hand, but still able to get past this slightly to land to the face. Another light jab. Then Usman lands a darting right straight from distance to set up his takedown. Hughes tries a counter with a left hook, missing the punch, overextending. Usman secures the takedown against the fence, gets one hook in, grabs onto the fence momentarily, lands 3 strikes there. The last one seemed grazing, and as he throws a disengaging knee, it misses the head and hits the shoulder. Usman lands a jab, then Hughes grazes the chin with the left hook, following up with a more powerful right hook that gets Usman's attention. The third medium strike of the round, second for Hughes though. That was a pretty good shot from him. Usman got way too reckless with the knee. Then Usman lands another jab, following up with the right straight that glances. Hughes counters him with an effective left hook. Then we get to the fourth medium strike of the second round. Usman lands a thrusting knee to the chest, a pretty powerful shot. Then Usman lands 2 jabs consecutively, the second one as Hughes is moving forward. Usman's jab was so precise throughout the fight. Then there was a snap kick from Usman. In real time and from the reaction from Hughes, it seems like it may have landed low. Then a grazing body jab that almost lands low as well. Grazing left hook as Hughes is pulling away. Then Hughes lands another good jab, snapping the head back. And after missing the right straight, Hughes partially lands the left shovel hook, turning that into a clinch, grabs into the thigh plum, and thrusts a knee into the body, but Usman partially blocks it with the left arm before it connects, absorbing some of that power. And Usman's reaction to it was to start taunting, and it's not a given that that's a tell for Usman acknowledging a big strike landing on him, but that was a pretty good knee from Hughes. But then Usman lands 2 light jabs and follows up the second one with a left high kick that nearly lands to the head. If it wasn't for Hughes throwing the left hook, that would have been a flush head kick, but his left hook obstructs the kick from following through, grazing the neck as it lands to the chest. Jab from Usman, countered by a right straight to the chest, and that ends the second round. As you can see, Usman landed way more strikes. He has so much more output. Hughes edged him just slightly on the medium strikes, but in my opinion, not enough to win the round. So I give this round to Usman Nurmagomedov, 10-9, making him ultimately the winner of the fight. Now, of course, with all of the fouls, he should have gotten a point deduction, making this a 47-47 draw. But that's not how it went. Usman Nurmagomedov is now officially 2-0 against Paul Hughes, discontinuing this rivalry, eliminating any possibility for a trilogy. But there you go. We do have some fights tomorrow. BKFC is having Mike Perry fight Jeremy Stevens, which should be very interesting. And then, of course, we're all awaiting the big UFC card. And we have a sponsor for this video for the UFC fights. You could sports bet on DraftKings, thankfully sponsoring this video, covering all the UFC fights and providing the absolute best betting lines. Plenty of sports to pick from, not just MMA, but from all the UFC pay-per-view cards to the fight nights to even Dana White's Contender Series, DraftKings has it all. There's title fights coming up with high stakes. With plenty of research, you could capitalize on those odds using that MMA knowledge. But if you want to disregard the straight bets, you can group up a parlay if you're confident enough to multiply your earnings. They also have a ton of props and methods for your picks as well, such as knockouts, submissions, decisions, draws. If the fight ends in the 4th round specifically, those tend to have some of the most extraordinary odds, and so many more. It would take an hour to go through all the different methods and how you could bet on these fights, just endless strategies, and it's all awaiting you on DraftKings. So for anybody who's interested in sports betting, DraftKings is absolutely the place to go. Go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code TheWeasel when you sign up, as they're giving you a generous offer for all new customers, turning their $5 into $200 if your bet wins. Paid instantly in bonus bets. The crown is yours, and the offer requires a minimum of -500 on the odds. Remember, go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code TheWeasel. Remember to bet responsibly. And I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Usman and Hughes are great. I hope one day they come to the UFC. That'd be awesome. I don't know who else Usman can fight over there. Perhaps they can sign some other great lightweight. That'd be awesome. It is optimistic, but I don't want to see this being a dead end for Usman and Hughes. Hopefully they have other rivals and elite fighters to test their skills. But if that is the end of it, if Usman and Hughes are isolated as the top 2, this almost feels like a retirement fight for both of them. If Usman and Hughes just continue to destroy everybody else, it pretty much just decays all interest, honestly. But hopefully they have some other great talent there. And what did you guys think of the fight? Who do you guys think won the fight? Of course, this is just my opinion. People are going to agree and disagree, of course. But did you think Usman should have won, Hughes should have won, or a draw would have been sufficient? What do you think of their skills? And most importantly, do you believe they can thrive in the UFC? I think they can, especially with lightweight being weaker than it was a few years ago. I think they can do well in the top 10, maybe in the top 5. Usman versus Arman Tsarukyan would be very interesting. And I'll see you guys in the next video.